What is the focus of your faith? How do you view God? How do you view Christianity? Do you have a Christmas or a courtroom posture? One of them leads to short-term and temporary satisfaction, whereas the other leads to long-term and deep transformation. Today we're going to discuss both, and we're starting with the Christmas mentality. For many, God seems to be like that secular westernized version of Christmas that the world sells us. You know, it's all gifts and blessings and pleasures, and God's got all this great stuff for us. And whilst God does have a lot of cool things for us, and it's not wrong to be excited about that, focusing specifically and only on those things can lead to a shallow and unfulfilling faith. You might be one with that Christmas Day type faith if you're only reaching out to God when you're in a time of great need, and when you're excited more by material blessings and the emotional high of being in church, or even maybe you get disappointed and discouraged when you don't feel like blessings that you felt entitled to don't come through in a time scale that you're satisfied with. And it boils down to an attitude that maybe not even consciously, like subconsciously, you measure God's love for you by material successes and physical good circumstances. But I remember before I came to the faith and Christmas Day was just about like presents and gifts and stuff, what it felt like once all the paper had been ripped off, this massive sense of anticlimax and just sadness. So what happens when the Christmas Day cosmic vending machine disappoints, doesn't hand out the gifts and the blessings? The second mentality to contrast that with is the courtroom mentality, where God is now not just a dispenser of good things, but he's also a dispenser of justice. In the courtroom mentality, we'll stand before him and recognize the sinful nature of our lives, and we know that we stand justly condemned for things that we have done. The Bible tells us that the wages of sin is death, and it also tells us that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We know that his standard is perfection in word, thought and deed, and we also know that none of us measure up to that standard, not even close. In Luke chapter 7 verse 47, Jesus says this of a woman who has been forgiven her sin: "Therefore I tell you, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much. But he who is forgiven little loves little." The opposite is true too. He who has been forgiven much loves much. And I think the beauty of seeing God in his courtroom setting rather than the Christmas Day westernized setting is that we see the weight of our own sin, and therefore the commensurate weight of mercy given to us to pay for that. A few years ago I got into a car accident. I was going round a roundabout, a lady pulled out in front of me and I barreled straight into the side of her. The ambulance came and we got my wife, who had injured her neck and her back, onto the stretcher, into the ambulance, and the ambulance driver said, "Hey, are you coming with me?" I said, "Hey, the car's there. We've got to get that thing sorted." And they kind of like, there was noises and whatever, and he said, "Well, look, it's out of the way. Jump in." So I jumped in with the ambulance and set off. While I was at the hospital waiting with my wife, a police officer came up and found me in the accident and emergency room, and he said, the police had been called to the scene of an accident, and because the ambulance was there, we have to breathalyze everybody. Now, they said to me, as you left the scene, if we breathalyze you and find any alcohol in your system whatsoever, I'm going to have to arrest you. You're going to jail. At that moment, my heart sank. I was absolutely petrified. I hadn't been drinking that morning, but I had had some alcoholic beverages the night before. And this was before, I was a younger man, and I did drink a lot more. So there was a possibility that alcohol could be in my system the following day. I was a stupid guy, and then he breathalyzed me. And after this guy breathalyzed me, it rang through as a 0. I always thought that it was going to be, I don't drink and drive, but the fear that was in my body because I thought I might be guilty, and then the relief when I realized that I had actually, not having to face that consequence. It was outrageous. I crumpled like a sack of potatoes and just started crying uncontrollably. It was unreal. But the reality of the scenario is that every single day, I, you, and everybody watching this video spits in the face of our Creator almost constantly with sin. It's, we don't give him the pride of place on the throne room of our heart, and he deserves nothing but absolute respect and awe. And yet, even though we deserve condemnation, he offers us mercy. And we should have a similar reaction to when I found out that breath test was 0. Instead of having a fleeting joy, we have a deep-seated reverence and long-lasting contentment. And it transforms how we live, humbly and freely. If we see God only as the dispenser for our needs and our gift giver, then we miss out on all of the great things that he has for us. We don't see him as he truly is, and we risk living a lukewarm life. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Or we risk having false security. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Not trying to scare you or make you feel bad. And in many ways, I know that I am preaching to myself as much as to anybody else out there. But say again, God has so much more for you. A deeper peace, a real joy, an unshakable love. So which of the two views do you resonate with most? The Christmas day or the courtroom mentality? Get it down in the comments. Be honest. And if you feel like maybe you've been living in that Christmas day mentality camp, don't lose hope. I want to encourage you that God is calling out to you, and if you would turn and just open your heart in prayer to him and ask him to bring you deeper and give you a better realization of the cross of Christ. He is faithful and he will give that to you. Let his love change you. It is never too late to go from shallow pleasures to immense, deep and satisfying joy. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.